as far as everything was kind of coming to a head, and I was in a pretty bad spot, dark spot. And I even used to say to my wife, so my wife and I have only been together 8.5 years. So she never knew the younger version of me, the one that I used to think was the better version of me.
Yeah.
And all she saw was this overweight man that hated himself, that was depressed, that was angry, that was volatile, that drank too much, that, just sat on the couch and sedated so that I could turn my brain off. Because I didn't want to feel the thoughts that were going through my head. I just wanted to zone out, and just not participate. And not only was I doing that for my wife, but that was the example I was setting for my kids. Hey, it's okay. I don't have to work hard. Dad doesn't. I don't have to worry about my health or what I eat or anything like that, because Dad doesn't. I was giving my kids excuses of why they didn't have to be certain things, because they could just point to me and say, well, Dad didn't. He was fine.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't fine,
Yeah.
So I used to say to my wife, I'm sorry you never got to see the best version of me.
Oh, man.
Which is a pretty crappy place to be, because that was, I'd given up. I'd acknowledged that I was done and that it was never going to get any better. Because I had, like all of us, every few months, I have my day one of my diet pictures in my phone, right? Okay, this time I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Start Monday.
Yeah.
Next Monday.
And then you shit the bed by Wednesday.
Right.
And you're like, oh, well, I'll start again next Monday. So until then, I might as well just drink as much as I can and hit Taco Bell as much as I can.
Right.
And then Monday comes and you go, well, I'll start next Monday. And then any time that I tried to quit, it actually got worse. I got heavier. Same thing with chewing for me over the years. I used to chew tobacco like 1.5 cans a day.
All of us, brother.
Yeah. And I mean, you guys remember me from back in the day, just a huge hammer in at all times. And that's what I was known for. And anytime I tried to quit chewing, I ended up coming back just ravenously and chewing more than I did before the time that I quit. So it was pretty, to fast forward, it was extremely rewarding for me to be able to tell my wife, I can say with confidence that you are getting the best version of me that ever walked this earth, and I'm not done.
I love it.
I know I'm not perfect. I never will be. There's no destination that I will ever reach. Like, oh, I'm there.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm dedicated to trying to get there to a spot I know I'll never hit.
It's so powerful what you're saying, dude, because I know this might be weird. I'm trying not to get emotional while you're talking, because you hit on a few things that hit home for me. Mm-hmm. And that I've struggled with through the years. I've only have 16 years on. All of us got plenty of years on. That mental game's hard. And I do think, our career choice does play into that, the lack of sleep like you talked about. And I know for me, I've gone to some very dark places because of self-esteem issues, not feeling good enough, and it just compounds. And you keep going, and whether it's a bravado thing, saying I don't need help or whatever it is, you start making bad choices. And I mean bad choices as far as diet. You start clinging to things that make you feel good. Some people it's sex, some people it's alcohol, some it's drugs, whatever it may be. And it starts to play out in your life, and you get comfortable. And I always tell people, comfort's a slow death. You got to be willing to get a little bit dirty and a little uncomfortable to push yourself to that next level. And, a lot of people look up to you, man. I know I do, coming from where we did and working where we're at now. And
appreciate that.
Yeah. And, you have that leadership position, and to see someone as yourself be raw, open, and honest, and look internally and say, okay, there's a problem here. I need to fix it. And it's not even just for work, but deeper, for yourself, for your family, for your wife. I just want to say, dude, I'm proud of you, man. I've seen the transformation. We've all watched it. People talk about it. Have you seen Cory?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I've seen Cory, dude. Wash my clothes off his stomach, dude. Look at those abs, boy.
Yeah, definitely jealous.
Yeah, but it's motivating. It's motivating to see, and it's like, okay, if someone like that can do it, I can do it. I can pull myself out of a dark place, because I still struggle with that. I still struggle with self-esteem issues and feeling good enough, and I got to get out of my head. And for me, it is working out. It's going out when I get home. I go for runs. I used to do ultra marathons. I'm training for another one. It's a lot of running. It's a lot different, but getting out and getting that physical exercise, and that for me, that releases that stress, and for me, that tension mentally. And I get, for whatever reason, I get more clarity after cycling or running or going for a swim, and I'm like, okay, I can take this day on. I can do it. And I think it's beautiful. The journey that you've gone through, and others have done it as well. It shows that it's not impossible. That I can see what you're saying, where it's like, I was just surviving. I was just living like, hey, when's my time up? I remember thinking for myself a few years back, there's got to be more to life than this.
Yeah.
But it's up to me to make that decision. Yeah. I got to put the work in and see where I can push myself and how far I can go, because there are people relying on us, and there are people outside of work that do look up to us in our families and our lives and the things that we do. And what you're doing, what you've done, and just the way you're presenting yourself now is really different from when I first met you. You look happier.
Oh yeah.
Your countenance on your face is completely different. You seem way more motivated, and that's powerful, dude. That's going to inspire more people than you think. A lot more people than you think, dude. So it's talking about this right now. It's hard for me not to get emotional, because it's a lot of people can't relate with us because of what we do. And I've said this before here in this podcast, but it's very interesting in our career field. It's not just like this lack of sleep and all that, but I think I was reading something in an article that said most people, average people, maybe see one or two people violently die in front of them in their lifetime, right? We see it on a shiftly basis, right? And we just tuck that away. Right, and you bury it and all this stuff, but that stuff plays a huge part, man. And I had to realize, and for me, that's why we support therapy on here big time for first responders and doing it. I think it's huge and important. I do it, but man, just how much the physical fitness, your mental health, spiritual, whatever other people do, how all that plays into each other. I'm so glad you said it's not just the physical. Yeah. But you're saying there's a transformation that's happening inside of you, mentally, emotionally, with your family, and that's powerful, man. It really is.
Yeah. It's go
ahead.
Yeah, no, I just you said there's a lot to unpack, if you will, on what you're talking about. But one of the points that you were talking about, as far as like the day-to-day, like coming up with excuses for yourself, right? And I think it's that's a common. Not everyone in this profession, but a lot of people probably feel the same way. And I can attest to like a lot of things you're saying. I'm like, I get it with every bit of my being. Like I totally understand that, because, it kind of popped in my head is like, maybe a little bit is about that is because the process of going through this profession, getting the job, being successful within the job, there's so many things that you have to accomplish, right? And then now you're doing this, okay, I've gotten to this place at work, and then I'm trying to balance my home life as well. And all these things take a tremendous amount of effort within itself. And it's like, once you hit that, I think it's natural to feel that kind of cruise control. Yeah. Right. But within that cruise control feeling, you get a lot of the excuses, right? Because it's like, hey, okay, I'm working a 96 this week, and it's like, I got one day off. Am I going to waste the day with, okay, whether you go to the gym or work out at home or go running on these times, especially when if you have family stuff. So it's like, you're already limited within that time and experience. Am I going to go to the gym at 4:00 in the morning? Yeah. Am I going to, hey, I only got one day to sleep until like 7. Okay. Am I going to waste that extra 2 hours instead of going to the gym? Or maybe I'm going to meal prep today, but I got to go to the store. Everything is so, I feel like, time dependent. So we kind of have a tendency, or at least for me personally, I feel like it's easier sometimes to say like, you know what? Screw it. I'm not going to deal with that. And then the next thing you know, I'm 8 beers into the day, and not like as a lush, but, just drinking throughout the day just because, hey, a little bit of that numb factor, a little bit of, whatever, we'll do whatever. Well, over X amount of years, that catches up to you, and then you find yourself in the position, which I thought you did a really good job explaining, is that you kind of just, it's not, you said it's not about living, it's really more I survive day to day. And not in the way of like I'm mentally to the point of when I hurt myself or anything along those lines, but just your day-to-day factors of just kind of just accepting this is who I am instead of what I know that I can be, right? And so you're kind of in that constant struggle of like, I know I can put out the more effort, but I already feel like I'm putting out a ton of effort. So what is that? How do I propel myself moving forward? And I think that that's very like, we don't fucking talk about it. You know what I mean? As much. But inside, there's no way you don't feel that way.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows what the effort is that you have to do. Everyone knows how much time and, things take on people. But it's like, where do you find that extra bit? And, some people, it's like, okay, I hit a block in my life and I absolutely have to change. And the unfortunate part about that is that a lot of people will, instead of finding that feeling and propelling forward and doing the things that, we have those examples, including yourself, right, of how I can change myself and be better physically, mentally, spiritually, and all that. Like, what is that block? Like, why aren't we all doing that? You know what I mean? And not to say that because it's not easy, clearly, and everyone can attest to that. But it's like, what is that factor? And I just think like having people like yourself and showing that, look, you can do it. And we talk about that a lot on this show as far as like, pushing yourself, getting better, doing stuff, making yourself, putting yourself in uncomfortable positions. And sometimes that uncomfortable position is just waking up an hour earlier. Yeah. It's hey, you know what? Instead of, it's like, yo, fucking Bob made some cheesecake again, which is bomb, but I can't fucking eat it. Yeah. Like I got to stop. I got to cut somewhere, So
it's intentional. It's intentionally putting yourself in places to suffer, intentional suffering, and waking up a half an hour earlier than you used to. That's not even suffering. It's you get the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
What the suffering was looking at myself in the mirror and fucking hating myself. That was true suffering. And